False alarm. The voice talked about the city. It was a radio announcer's voice, and I resented its clean diction and its wheedling salesmanship. The voice of warning spoke to the people of the city as though it were trying to sell them a laxative, a tube of toothpaste, a cake of soap, or a pack of cigarettes. It was a cold voice, aloof and precise, and I knew the announcer had spent a lot of time with vocal teachers. The voice told the people of the city to stay off the streets, to be calm, to remain in their homes until the all clear had sounded. The voice said unidentified planes had been spotted beating toward the city. Those planes, I thought, are coming to bomb my family and my friends, to try and destroy the city I love. We sat there in the barracks waiting to go on guard, and we cursed the planes, and I felt angry and helpless. I love the city beyond all places. I'm not a man for country places, and the choir of the crickets annoys me late at night because I want to hear the roaring ebb and flow of Broadway. I like to hear the L trains in the distance, and even after they tore down the structure, I used to listen for them and feel sad when I couldn't hear their rolling clatter. The noise a brook makes is not for me. I want the music in the Stork Club. I see more beauty in the lights of the city than I do in the stars in the sky. I want to see the dawn in the windows of the Empire State Building. All the hills in the world can't stir me the way the big buildings do. It was a false alarm. The planes never came. But that polite radio announcer's voice pronouncing the warning made me hate the enemies of democracy more than anything else ever will. I'd always thought of war being fought in strange lands, in parched fields, or in faraway mud. I thought of it as something that happened to remote cities where other people lived. Although I've always thought our life and our property were in jeopardy, I never imagined New York under fire. I do now. I think of my family and my friends in the city I loved every time I take a rifle in my hands and every time I fix my bayonet. As the warning voice droned in Sam Levinson's radio, I thought of Mr. Durkin, who lived in our house on Hudson Street when I was a child. He was a bricklayer, stooped from troweling mortar. I thought of him on a thin ladder in the skeleton of a building. I thought of the ladder buckling and breaking and Mr. Durkin falling. I remembered him coming home mangled and bandaged and how difficult it was to get the stretcher up the narrow stairs. I thought how hard Mr. Durkin worked to build these edifices, which are the symbol of our civilization. I thought of the pride he had in them. I remembered him on a Sunday afternoon taking me by the hand and showing me one, the white strips still crossed on the windows, the dust from the bricks rising in a fog about the foundation. I thought of the sweat and the blood Mr. Durkin had put into these buildings. I thought of the architect's dreams. A single plane coming out of the mists at Sandy Hook could destroy all that Mr. Durkin worked for and had pride in. One bomb might fall, and all the skill and strength, all the living and the dying, all the sweat and the beauty and the dream would vanish, and the winter wind would carry the dust away. I thought of that, and I thought of those who snickered at the likes of me. They mocked the pieces I wrote about the Army. They said I was a sucker because I stayed in when I was over 28 and could have gone out. They were the isolationists, and they said we were a people apart and we were immune to invasion and fire. What did they say then? What did they think? What was in their minds as the announcer's voice spoke the warning? Did they say these buildings would not fall, these people will not die, this city will not be bombed? Did they say we are the people apart then? I hope they said we are wrong and we admit it. We are a united people now and we must make up for what we did. We were guilty. We will work for forgiveness. In my outfit, most of the guys are from the city. They telephoned their families, and they were angrily glad the warning had been false. But on the field, as we went through a bayonet drill, the non-coms didn't have to drive us. We grunted with pleased exertion as we made the long thrust and the short thrust and the jab. The war had come to the city, and we were part of the city. It's Jimmy Cannon, 1943.